Well, welcome back, everyone. It is lovely to have you back for another episode of what UK tabloids are calling a show that is oddly too complicated, even though they stopped listening about 10 minutes in. Welcome back to the Genius Game. It is amazing to still be here, especially with a main match that is so iconic and we've seen play out multiple times before here with almost a brand new iteration. But before we get pushing, hi, my name is Jack. I am a reality TV superfan, escape room designer, puzzle designer, super fan of the Genius. I believe to this point I am tied for the most amount of online Genius games played. If you're curious how well I did in them, you can stop asking. It's not important. Please don't look into it. But I am someone who has loved this series the entire time, and I am so happy to continue to talk about this game with y'all. But before we continue, I do have a couple things to take care of on my end. If you want to hear more about the Genius Game, maybe when it comes over to the US, maybe some Netflix shows, if you love Survivor, Big Brother, both in the US and international, this is the place for you. So please feel free to subscribe below. The button just did glow rainbow for you. So, I mean, well, why not? Go ahead and press it. We are on a mission across all of our channels to hit 1,000 subscribers because that means we can bring even more incredible content to you. So please help us hit that goal. And yes, I did say our other channels. If you're interested in drag content, wrestling, or Eurovision Song Contest, we do have 3 more channels for that you can find in the link tree below. That link tree also has links to all of our audio podcasts where you can listen to us on the go if you don't want to stream it on YouTube, any sort of podcasting service that you can think of. We are more than likely there under the Cup Podcasts. And finally, we do have our lovely merch. We have mugs, sweatshirts, hats, anything you can imagine. That link is at lanagcreations.etsy.com, which is in the description below. In addition, if you love our stuff, you can always follow us on social media, Blue Sky, Twitter, wherever you like, at the Cup Pod. Now, I say we get into episode number 2 with our cast. Last time, Paul was jailed for the entire episode via Scott's scheming and eliminated after what came back from a blowout with Basha, where she eventually triumphed over Paul. Now, as we walk into episode 2, we are a cast of 10. People are speculating what type of game it could be today. We already had a team-based game. We've already have a points-based game and allocation. So maybe it's something hidden role, mafia-esque. There's not a poker table, so it can't be poker just yet. But we do get some interstitials from Allison, Amanfi, and Basha, basically giving us their backstory, which is lovely to find out. Allison is our crime writer, Basha is our doctor, and Amanfi is our coach. And all of them are bringing very different skills into what will be today's game. Now, this game in particular that we're starting with today, because we don't really got a lot of time to introduce people, is a game that we have seen before on in the Genius in other places. And in fact, I'm 99% sure that the minute that David Tennant says undead, multiple people, including Ben and Ken, clock exactly what game this is about to be. We are playing Zombie Game, which is a very famous game from the previous from the original version of the Genius. Now, how this game works is very simple. At the start of the game, everyone draws a card. 8 of them have simply human on it. 2 of them have the word zombie, and those players are our initial zombies. Their goal is simple: infect everyone else, and they win. So the zombie win condition is very simple. If everyone in the game can get infected, these zombies win. The humans, on the other hand, have a little bit of a different objective. The humans are looking to get as many points as possible by contacting as many people as possible. The human at the end of the game who has not been turned and has the most amount of points will win. Now, how do players either turn or get points? Simple. In the middle of the room, there is a totem. If 2 players touch their hands on the totem, they touch. Now, if both of those players are humans, both score a point. If both of those players are zombies, nothing happens. And if a zombie and a human touch, the human converts to a zombie, meaning all of their points previously gained were for nothing. So, if at any point a player turns into a zombie, it may be in their best interest to convert everyone else. Now, there's one more thing that every player has on their person. If at any point before a round ends, a human or zombie, if they feel so inclined, believes that they touch a zombie and may turn at the end of the round, they can drink an antidote. This antidote is the only way to hard stop yourself from being converted, and it must be drank within the same round that you touch a zombie. If you touch a zombie like this, you do not earn anything. It is simply just making sure that the infection goes through. So, if you drink it and you were to be a zombie, congratulations, you're no longer a zombie. If you didn't, you burn the antidote. Everyone starts the game off with a single antidote, and you can purchase another antidote if you wish by going to the dealers and spending a garnet. So, garnets now are currency in a different way in this game. And one more minor rule: you must touch someone at the end in each round. If you fail to touch anyone within a round, you automatically convert to being a zombie. So simply standing off to the side is not a viable strategy. So, simply put, if you're a zombie, convert everyone to a zombie in order to win. If you're a human, gain the most points possible in order to secure yourself safety and be able to determine anyone else to be the elimination candidate. Now, immediately, we get different strategies on how people may approach this game. We very quickly learn that that Ben has decided, hey, let's just do a quad or a bubble. How this bubble strategy would work is incredibly simple. 4 humans, all they have to do to make sure they don't turn is only touch within their group of 4. So, for example, if you have players A, B, C, and D, player A just needs to touch player B on round 1, C on round 2, and D on round 3. For the others, it's a very similar thing of B touching A, then C, then D, and so on until everyone has only touched each other human one time. If that happens, they all have 3 points. And if that is the successful most amount of points at the end of the game, all of them are safe and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Of course, this requires that no one enters or exits the bubble at any point once it has been formed, because otherwise then people can gain extra points or accidentally infect other people. So very quickly, we see Ben pull together India as someone he trusts, and Basha, and then goes back and forth, and Alice interbacks, and Allison, unfortunately, doesn't give the right vibes. She kind of wavers on if she wants to say she's a human or a zombie, which is a really questionable strategy. Why wouldn't you just automatically say you're a human? Um, but we do get that bubble fully forming with Ben, India, Basha, and Bex leaving Allison off to the wayside. We also get Charlotte confirming, yeah, I'm actually a zombie, which is a very interesting thing to do because just to be clear, if the other zombie can now not publicly come forward. If both zombies come forward, then all 8 humans can look at each other, say, let's just throw the 2 zombies into the death match, and that'll be it. So, with Charlotte immediately telling Scott and I want to say Bodelia that she is a zombie, the other bubble slightly begins to form. Everyone is wary on Allison. So, Scott, Bodelia, uh, Scott, Bodelia, Amalfi, and Ken end up linking up and saying, we'll basically do the exact same thing, but we want to see if we can drag someone else in order to give us a leg up on the other 2, the other bubble that has formed. And as long as both Allison and Charlotte are the 2 zombies, then great. That strategy works exactly as expected. And either Charlotte and Allison automatically go to the death match, or one of the other bubble will be picked off, and then we will see what happens from there. We do get some very simple trades here. Basha and Bex trade, Ben and Indy trade. So that's the first pass of the first bubble complete. We then see kind of the other trio of Ken, Scott, and Bodelia immediately just confirm all of each other's hits. So all 3 of them touch with each other immediately. They're at 2 points. The bubble's at 1. We see Scott tap Charlotte and then immediately chug his antidote because he knows that Charlotte is a problem. But that also allows Scott to then successfully go up to 2 points. And just to be clear, Ken taps Scott first before that can even happen, so no infections occur within the bubble. Now, the other tap that we have, just to make sure that Amalfi and Allison don't get screwed, they touch each other. Now, Amalfi off to the side goes, I believe Allison is human, but like I want to be sure. So he immediately chugs his antidote as well, making sure that he's good. And on the side, because Scott and Charlotte touched, Charlotte passes her antidote to Scott because she isn't going to need it. She's an initial zombie. That's not literally going to do anything for her. So at the moment, we currently have, if everything is going right, Bodelia, Ken, and Scott on 2, Basha, Bex, Ben, Indy, Amalfi, and Allison on 1, and we already have Charlotte as a confirmed zombie. But of course, within that information, something is wrong because at least one other person already has to be a zombie. And we do find out basically that Charlotte just kind of goes, yeah, I'm going to make sure that Scott, Ken, Bedelia can win this. That way I can work off what I need to. But somehow, through all of our notes here, there are now 3 zombies, meaning that one more person has gotten infected than anyone necessarily expected. Because it couldn't have been Scott. Scott chugged. It couldn't have been Amalfi because Amalfi chucked. It can't be any of Ken or Scott or Cordelia because all of them have touched too many people at this point for the infection to have done that. So there's only a couple options. Either the bubble of Basha, Bex, Ben, and Indy has already been penetrated, and one of them is a zombie, and someone else got turned. Or Charlotte is lying, and she isn't initially a zombie. Or Allison is now a zombie, and Amalfi was the original zombie. So we now have our suspects fully lined up going into round 2 of 3 of this game. Now, immediately, the trio of Ken, Scott, and Bodelia immediately go, Bex, get over here. You need to come with us. We're going to give you a shot to win this game. Get over here. And Ben immediately goes, do not do that. We agreed to a bubble. If you touch them, I'm going to have a problem. Which is fair. Essentially, Ben is potentially being screwed here along with the rest of the bubble if Bex decides to just straight out betray them. And Bex is like, calm down. I'm only going to go talk to them. We can breathe. Everyone take a moment and chill. We're good here. Calm down. And Bex goes over and talks with Bex goes over and talks with them, and they pitch to like, hey, you can just betray that bubble, you can win with us, all that, because at this point that's their only shot of survival, because they now know, okay, either one of us is already infected and this doesn't matter, one of the bubbles already infected and we're just selecting the person we don't think it is, or probably Amalfi and Allison, one of them just infected the other and we don't know what happened. But it can't be Amalfi, so we'll just ignore that for now. That's fine. And off to the side, Ben basically just says, hey, we won her first. We get to keep her. It's a weird claim game over Bex just to talk, which, sure. I mean, all it's going to do is show Ben and Scott as like kind of the forerunners of like, hey, we're going to really play a hard game going out front. And it's probably not going to serve either of them well, unfortunately. Now, off to the side, we also have Amalfi going through the notes of, hey, look, here's my antidote vial. I chugged it. We're all good there. Like, we don't need to worry about anything. And we then have Amalfi basically just like fully pitching the world of, I mean, he could have chugged it like to feign things, but like, I mean, he's gonna go over, he's gonna spend a garnet, the first garnet purchase of the game, and buy a new antidote. And that's what he does. He heads into the back, buys an antidote, comes back out, shows people like, hey, I have a full bottle now. I also have one less garnet. It's nice and simple. Why would I do that if I were a zombie? And everyone kind of accepts it. Like, okay, yeah, no, Amalfi cannot have been the original zombie. It must have been Allison. No one touch Allison. It's not really worth it. But we then go into the touches for the round. We have Ben and Basha touching and Indy and Bex touching. That's just the bubble as usual. We have Amalfi deciding to help out both Bodelia and Ken in order to get himself up to 2 points and Bodelia and Ken up to 3. And then we have Allison and Scott touching. Scott is kind of wary of where Allison is at the moment. So he then drinks the vial that Charlotte gave. And once again, Scott is now completely safe for the round because there's no way that he could be a zombie at this point. And we finally just kind of have Allison maybe at 2. Amalfi bought the antidote. We're all good there. And Charlotte is still a zombie. Charlotte does not touch anyone, but at this point, every single person is very aware that Charlotte is a zombie, so no one really needs to touch her. She actually says in a podcast, no, sorry, this is trying to remember exactly where I'm getting my sources from here. This was a message that she sent in the official Genius Discord server that she had basically told both sides that she had only told them that she was a zombie. And then to the other side, she would feign it. So everyone knows that she is a zombie. And then when talking to people on both sides of the fence, Charlotte said she wasn't. So no matter what, Charlotte is in a position where she's a giver and helping people. She may not be able to really win this, but she's in a good spot to where she won't be targeted. Now, we get the zombie reveal for the end of round 2, and it is confirmed it is a perfect 5-5 split. Now, at this point, there are exactly 2 worlds in which this scenario makes any sense. The first is that there was a zombie in the Ben, Bex, Indy, Basha bubble, and everyone has been infected at this point, and simply put, they're all out of contention. The other option, and the only one that makes sense otherwise, is that Amalfi was infected. Whether he didn't drink his antidote or he was the original zombie, somehow Amalfi was already infected, and now the infection has passed on to both Bedelia and Ken in this past round, making it 5 people. This would also have turned Allison in the previous round. So no matter what, either Allison or Amalfi is the zombie, or one of the bubble has been lying. And the bubble simply goes, cool, if one of us is, great job, but it doesn't matter at this point. So we're all going to trust each other, and we're just going to complete the strategy. But unfortunately, we see the end of the game come to fruition. Indian Basha and Ben and Bex tap. And before the others can even think about doing it, Amalfi pulls Ken and Scott and Bedelia into a room and says, I'm really sorry, but I am the other original zombie. Ben and Bedelia, you are both infected, and there's nothing you can really do, Scott. You're going to be at the bottom. So, how did Amalfi get away with it? It's time to rewind. Now, Amalfi did manage to talk to Allison and basically say, hey, look, I'm good, you're good, we're fine here. All we need to do is make sure that we are in a position where I'm okay. Can I take your antidote? Because I don't think you're going to need it at this point. Like, you're good, I'm good. So, Allison slides her antidote to Amalfi. Amalfi does chug the initial antidote, but it never mattered. And then during round 2, Allison is already infected. Allison was the person infected going into round 2. So then Amalfi, using this trust built, decides to buy an antidote. But he simply walks into the dealer's room and does nothing, and then hides a garnet behind a stack of blocks in the library. I think it's a library. It's either the library or the study. But with that, he proves to Ken and Bedelia that he can't be the zombie. And unfortunately, both Ben and Bedelia immediately just tap with him and infect themselves. Meaning that at this point, we only have 4 players left who all have 2 points. Well, they all have 3 points by doing the bare minimum correctly. And Scott is now left hanging on 2. So Scott does basically the only thing he can do at this point and says, Bex, look, let me give you the win. All of us are then on an equal playing field. You can determine what happens. Bex is not exactly willing to betray her bubble because it has proven her well at this point. And as such, Basha, Bex, Ben, and Indy all secure 3 points in the final round, making the final touches and get across the finish line with 3 points each. Scott is the only remaining human otherwise with 2 points. Amanfi and Charlotte were the original zombies, and Ken, Bodelia, and Allison returned during the game. Now, the 4 people in the bubble have a decision to make. Out of every player left, who deserves to go to the death match? Everyone goes back and forth. We can throw in an easy beat. We can throw in someone that might be a little tougher. We can throw in a threat. We can do what we need to. But after a bit of deliberation, we get a decision here. And that decision is to throw in Scott. Scott will be our second elimination candidate and thrown directly into the death match. Now, Scott does get to choose his opponent here. He looks around, sees who he could potentially barter with. Very quickly, it seems like Ken is off the table, Bedelia is off the table because they both worked with him honestly during the round. Bex, they had, Charlotte gave Scott information very early on, so that's off the table. So there's 2 options. It is either Amanfi or Allison. Amanfi says, look, I understand you feel betrayed. I will give you a garnet if you survive this, if you do not pick me, and instead you pick Allison. And Ben decides, you know what? Actually, I'm going to make the exact same offer in reverse. If you decide to keep Allison and take Amanfi with you, I will give you a garnet instead. Because Ben feels really bad that Allison's even in this position because he threw her out of the bubble at the very start of the game. Now, at the end of it, unfortunately, it is not even really a question here. Allison gets selected as the target by Scott, and they are going to be playing a brand new game, which is very nice to see. This is a game that we did not know about coming in. It's similar to other games that we've seen in the past, but once again, there's no exact pin to it. It is a game called Hidden Knots and Crosses. Now, how this game works is each player is given, there is a 6x6 board. There are 18 X's and 18 O's on that table, knots being the O's, crosses being the X's. There are 9 of each color. 9 O's and 9 X's are white. 9 of each are gold. The goal during the game is to first memorize the 36 pieces on the board of where you might want to, make sure you know where things are. From there, starting with whoever uh, the elimination candidate, aka the person who lost the main match, which, just to note, that is a different ruling, which is an interesting choice. Normally, it's given to the person selected by the elimination candidate as a way to be like, you were dragged into this even though you did fine, so you get a small boost. But in this case, it's actually being given to the person who lost. Cool, small change. But starting with that person's choice, they can then they have two moves they can make. They can either publicly turn one disc up and say, oh, this is exactly what this is, to both players, or they can blindly swap two pieces on the board. After that, the player in control can then decide to try and call out three same colored pieces of their type, whether that's the X's or the O's, in a line. Standard way, as always, diagonals, horizontals, vertical. I believe it's diagonals. It's never directly confirmed, but also, I mean, I really would doubt it's any other way. If it is called, the three tiles in a row are flipped. If they are correct, and that is a three in a row of that player's color, they score 3 points. And those tiles are permanently left facing up, impossible to move for the rest of the game. If they are incorrect, however, they receive a penalty of -1. The first player to get to 10 points, aka successfully getting 4 matches at least with 2 errors, given as basically free space. The first player to do that wins the death match and sends the other player home. Now, we do get a strategy session here, which is very interesting because it is very clear who is on whose side. We have Ben, Bex, Basha, and Indy all supporting Allison, aka the Bubble supporting Allison because they all feel bad about screwing her. And then Ken, Amonfis, Charlotte, and Bodelia all supporting Scott, aka everyone outside the bubble. So this will give us a really lovely split going into our next game, our next main match next week. But I say we focus a little bit more on what is currently on the table. So just to be clear, you can only call your own your own 18 color, 18 X's or 18 O's in this match. If you manage to score the other side, it's never really brought up, but I believe nothing happens. So this memorization is a lot easier than expected. You only really have to memorize 18 things of 2 different colors. Granted, I say easy like I could do this. I know I can't. So this would be a rough game for me. Any sort of like straight memorization is just tough. But Scott decides to take the knots or the O's and goes first, while Allison is left with the X's and goes second. Now, the first 2 matches for each of them are like nothing. They immediately know, okay, I just need to swap one piece into another place. Both of them get up to 6 points. I will say I don't necessarily agree with Allison's second move. Allison's second move has 2 white X's on a diagonal, leading to a third at the very top of the board. And she also has 2 gold X's at the very top, both of which can be filled in by the exact same space. Allison, instead of moving a white X, which in my opinion would be best because otherwise the other 2 pieces get locked down, moves a gold X to the very top and locks it in. In my mind, that essentially just forces those pieces to never be accessible moving forward. And it would have trapped an O in the corner that couldn't then be used. it doesn't really matter, but that's just the one insight that I did have of like not even unoptimal play. It's just like a weird moment of like, wow, okay, I actually understand something about the strategy for once. Um, but starting from the third move, Scott freezes and he can't connect the dots. He just is floundering over and over and over. And he makes a move just to check a piece, even though everyone agrees you never need to do that. And it's nothing. Allison then goes ahead and makes a move. Scott knows he's in a desperate position, tries to make a move and calls. Unfortunately, he's wrong. And from here, it is a very slow descent where Allison gets a match. Scott tries to do something, but just doesn't make it work. On the last turn possible, Scott tries to make something work, but all he does is give Allison perfect information to end the game in time. Allison ends up with 6 and ends up. You would think I know how to prep things in advance, but Allison ends up in our winner's position, dodging elimination after being marked as an easy walkover, as she managed to put it, which ultimately fueled her to do this game even better. And unfortunately, we had a really high and a really low for Scott. I do want to give Scott his flowers. He did really play this game. He was an out front leader from the beginning and unfortunately just got tricked in this main match, sending him into a bad position where he attempted to pick someone that he thought would be an easy beat. Unfortunately, in this game, you can never mark someone as an easy beat. And Allison takes Scott out of the game, leaving us with 9 players left on the board going into the next week of gameplay. Now, I do want to note, just because it is something that has come up, this schedule of this has been being shifted. If you are hearing about this now, we will only have episodes every Wednesday from here on out. But the best way to watch these episodes, if you are outside the US, and I specifically am appealing to those outside the US with a VPN, if you can manage to get one, I know they are expensive, but if you can, please use the ITVX app to give this game as much love and attention as it deserves. Unfortunately, it's had a really rough rap this first week because a lot of people are saying it is Trader's ripoff or like not too confusing. But as long as this game can continue pushing and continue getting a crowd, especially if people watch the second episode, which has a bit easier strategy, I will admit that episode 1 was a little much in terms of strategy for an immediate first game. This game, especially for an audience who has been already primed on traders, has a shot of really connecting. So, if you have loved this series as much as I have, I am going to ask you very, very politely to give this series as much love as you can on ITVX using a VPN if you're outside the States, if you're outside the UK, and if you are, view it on there as many times as you need because this cast is incredible. And this production team has very, very clearly put in the effort to make this series great. So, as we look forward into next week, we seemingly have a brand new game. It involves the English alphabet in some sense, People did think this was going to be 5-5 originally, where you have to ask a question that has a certain amount of syllables or letters in it. In the original Korean version, it was letters of the Korean alphabet, but now it is something very different, and I'm excited to see that pass, as well as our first poker DM. It could be blind poker, where one player has where you see only your opponent's card and you have to guess if your number is higher than theirs. But we will see what comes of that. But for now, that is all I have for you. Thank you so much if you stuck around this long, because it really does warm my heart. If you have any opinions on anything I've said, please feel free to head down to the comments. I will be down there attempting to, just talk about it, see what other people's opinions are, and please give your love to this cast if at all possible across any and all social media. In addition, if you loved the content here, please feel free to subscribe and like below. If you love any sort of reality TV content, this is the place for it. We cover things from all across the spectrum, from mainstays like Survivor and The Amazing Race, to one-offs potentially like Got to Get Out, to The Genius Game. And we are an international franchise, so we do as much across the world as we can. In addition, we also have our other 3 channels. Every single one of them is looking to hit 1,000 subscribers. So whether you like drag, WWE, or Eurovision Song Contest, feel free to head to our link tree below and look at what kind of channels we have and see if you might find a new love. In addition, we have our Patreon, where you can find out more about me, our other panelists, and everyone across the board. Potential fantasy casts, looking towards other games, and maybe just some nice talks with the panelists. So please look at our Patreon as well. You'll get some very lovely exclusive content. And finally, if you like any of our stuff here, you can also visit us on social media. My handle, Jack the Flop, is below. That is across Blue Sky. Just add TTV if you want to follow me on Twitter as well, or if you're looking for me anywhere else, along with our lovely The Cup Pod. And finally, our lovely merch. If you love our stuff, you can support us by buying a lovely cup mug, hats, sweatshirts, anything you can imagine. We probably have it on there. So please consider giving us a try. But with that said, I am going to get out of here. It has been lovely talking about the Genius Game. I am so excited to see what this series brings in the future. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. If you love this, try watching our Amazing Race content. It is spectacular. And with that, I hope you'll have an amazing rest of your day. Cheers!